I'm Alex.
I'm Robbie.
And this is Combat Thoughts.
We take a deeper look at the culture and philosophy behind martial arts. Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Combat Thoughts. This week we've got Craig Hamilton on. Craig's a purple belt coach, and it's been a trying time for him over COVID, so we're talking to him about his experience in BJJ, in lifting, and how they're gearing up the gym and what sort of measures they're going to be putting in place moving forwards. Hope you enjoy. Right, and I guess we want to be talking about like the gym and COVID and coming out of it and everything around that. But I think to get to that, we should start off with like you getting into martial arts and why you're starting up a gym, well, why you have a gym in the first place, if that's cool with you.
Well, I don't have a gym. I work at a Ju-Jitsu gym. I teach a Ju-Jitsu class 1 day a week at the moment. Mm-hmm. I first got into it, I think about 9 years ago, maybe 9 or 10 years ago.
I think I've known you probably 10 years, yeah?
Yeah, and it was, I forget because of the injuries and the amount of time that I stopped training. But I started watching a bit of UFC and thought, oh, might as well give that a go. And then went to Manchester Predators and then realised that there was a gym about a 5-minute walk from my house. So I thought, oh, I'll go there, and started going there instead, just for self-defence and fitness more than anything. And then, it just took off from there. I just fell in love with the sport, and I didn't like doing Thai boxing because I didn't like getting punched in the face, and I was terrible at it. So
I respect that. I understand that. Lee used to get punched in the face, and he grew out of it, I think.
Yeah, now I'm soft and I like to stay away from all that stuff.
Anyone tough comes in, he fucking runs.
That's it. I hide behind Robbie and just let Robbie deal with him. I'm not interested anymore. I've grown out of it. To be fair though, Craig, if we're looking at anybody who's had their kind of struggles with Jiu-Jitsu, and if anybody was looking for a reason to get out of it, it would have been you. I mean, you've had your back repaired 9,000 times.
I mean, the other day I was just walking and I felt my good knee go. That's how bad it is. But there's back injuries, neck injuries, knee injuries, ACL tears. Yeah, you name it.
So why do you keep coming back?
It's just a great sport, isn't it? I think it's when I started, like I said, I had no idea of how injury prone you'd actually be or how many injuries you'd take from doing it. And then my back, I ended up a disc went in my back. I ended up having a bulging disc, and I thought it'd just be something as simple as going to a chiropractor and just pop it back in, or something along those lines, a bit of physio, and you'd be fine. But every position that you get into Jiu-Jitsu, if you're not on top, it just puts all that pressure on your lower back, doesn't it? So I think I was doing it for about 2 years, and then I just give up. I just stopped because it wasn't worth it. And then I think me and Lee started training and doing sort of like powerlifting, some sort of based routine through weights, and my back started to feel a bit better. And then I just thought, I'll try Jiu-Jitsu again. And I realised my life was just better with it than it was without it. So you just sort of kind of try and manage around the injuries and do a bit more training, a bit more stretching, and just deal with it.
Sounds like a codependent relationship.
You know how it is, though, isn't it? As soon as you give it, like I said, I stopped training for 3 years. And then when I came back, I monitored how injury prone and sort of how my injuries sort of were when I was training in comparison to when I wasn't training Jiu-Jitsu. And there wasn't that much difference from powerlifting training to Jiu-Jitsu training. I just had a back.
It's funny you say you did the powerlifting, you started feeling better. Like, do you think it's because of the lifting, or?
I think it's because, my form isn't particularly bad when it comes to lifting weights. So suddenly going from being stacked or going for triangles and stuff like that and having all that pressure put on your back to then suddenly not having any of that and then strengthening the muscles as well through doing, your deadlifts and hyperextensions, whatever else. It started to feel stronger, it started to feel better. But then, as I said, after a period of time, you're trying to progress and you're trying to lift more and more weight and you're trying to do more and more reps. And I just got to a plateau on that as well, to where my form started getting worse because I was lifting heavier. And then by that point, I thought, I might as well try Ju-Jitsu because it's just, like I said, it's been 3 years without it. And, we were training weights in the same gym that they're doing Ju-Jitsu. So they're doing Ju-Jitsu across the way from you. You're seeing all these people have the time of their life choking each other out and snapping legs and ankles and I'm in a room across the way bench pressing and sort of assisting Lee with his 50-kilo bench press. So it's just
it's still there.
It's still 50 kilos.
We did. I did squatting with Robbie on Monday, and my legs are still sore now. And
you've been a right bitch about it.
I must say, what I might use for the thumbnail of this podcast, Craig, if that's all right with you, is you in the picture of that singlet deadlifting back in the day.
Oh, you're a singlet man.
I bought one singlet from it was a wrestling jiu-jitsu singlet from Tatami. It was on clearance for $5. I bought a large. I clearly shouldn't have been a large at the time. And it just, I mean, it'll definitely get you more fans for your podcast.
we might have to put an age restriction on the warning,
Oh yeah.
Hey, you know what? I think the singlets are coming back. Raspberry Ape, Dan Strauss and all his boys, they're all wearing singlets now. You see people turning up at Polaris in singlets. I think it's making a comeback.
Yeah, Freddie Vosco, and he was rocking an Adidas one for a while, wasn't he?
Right, you're ahead of the curve, Craig.
I was.
It's the first time you've been described as a trendsetter, mate.
Yeah.
So I think what we also need to focus on here around you and kind of your jiu-jitsu is for somebody with so many injuries and somebody who's been plagued by injuries, and you basically just didn't work from the bottom for a long time. You have such an obsession with leg locks.
And it's So when I did start coming back and started training, it literally was, if someone, I'd try and get on top straight away, and if someone managed to sweep me, it was just trying to defend chokes, just don't get submitted, and not even trying to retain guard, because as soon as I'd retain guard, you get that pressure put on your lower back again. So I wasn't even trying that. I was just trying to stop him from submitting me. And then after a bit, sort of, progressed and tried getting into half guard. And that's probably where my obsession with half guard comes from as well. When you get someone into half guard, then there is full guard. But yeah, it was just experimenting and then seeing how you were the next day and, remembering, I remember someone who just stacked past me. And I was in agony for a week.
Okay, that's kind of funny. So that means your whole style of jiu-jitsu has been built around you being pretty injury prone.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because when I first started, one of the first things, the only submissions I'd seen in UFC by that point was a triangle and an armbar from guard. Right, and I just used to try and triangle people, and it's crazy to think that when I first started, triangles, I wouldn't attempt one now. Unless it was an arm triangle, but yeah, I wouldn't attempt one now. But yeah,
I'd question if your legs are long enough to triangle somebody.
Very difficult. It would need to be, someone who's 4 foot, maybe 5 foot.
I can sympathise with you. It's been a long time since I've got a triangle on someone. And then it's when they've really fall deep into it because my legs don't get around them enough.
Yeah, no, I've been going for a while, but leg locks, they're just a wonderful thing, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, you're saying leg locks and sort of injuries as well. It's like I'd say for a good couple of months, me and one of my training partners, Phil, we were working 50-50 guard for like I said, for like 2 months. And I just persisted with that, even though my back was killing. It was like, because you just constantly sat up with nothing behind you. My lower back was on fire from that, but persisted with it, and yeah, definitely love an ankle lock.
All right. So what is it you kind of get out of jiu-jitsu that you said that life's better with it?
Yeah.
To the extent where you're willing to potentially suffer horrible injuries and you're constantly at risk of that.
I'm not going to go out and snap my neck or snap my back for jiu-jitsu, but for the niggles, so like, because I have a desk job, so sat down all day anyways is a nightmare for my back as it is. But what do I get out of it? I mean, it's good for the fact that there's like 20 to 30 people on the mat, so it's like I get on with almost everyone there anyway. So so it's always, you get out of the house, you spend 2 hours with them, like 20 of your closest mates. So it's good for that. Gym workouts can get very repetitive and boring. Like I said, we were doing powerlifting for a good few years, and once peaked in that, and it started to really affect my form and get a bit too difficult on my body. I was just bored by it. Whereas this, you can go in 1 week and you're getting subbed by someone. Someone will show you a different choke. There's so much variety with it. I think everybody speaks about it as well now, like mental health. Everybody's recommending jiu-jitsu and MMA and grappling for wrestling for mental health as well. I think there's definitely times where before you go to a class, you might not want to go to that class, when you're feeling like really down, really shitty, and you think, oh, I really just can't be arsed going to this. But then you go, and regardless of what you get taught in the class, you're glad you went. You know that you've benefited from going. Like mental health wise, not just for me, but for a lot of people as well. It's definitely beneficial. You definitely leave having a good workout and feel better about yourself.
What would you say the biggest change was moving from just being the guy in the class, kind of trying to survive with your back, to becoming a coach?
Um,
Do you enjoy it just as much? Do you enjoy it more? Do you get something different out of it now?
I learn. I've learned a hell of a lot more since being taught, because in our gym we've got our head instructor, John, who's a black belt now, and at the time the only other people that were underneath him were 3 blue belts. And John's 57 now, I think. He doesn't want to do 2 to 3 classes. He doesn't want to teach 2 to 3 classes a week. So he asked me and this other blue belt to start teaching. So I think because you're a blue belt who's teaching a bunch of white belts and high grade white belts, you kind of feel like you've got a bit more to prove, and you have to put a bit more effort in. You're trying to get the techniques spot on in comparison to a black belt that can just go, yeah, there's a technique, and it's perfect. Whereas it's like, it's like training, studying, it's, testing the move out with your coach. I love teaching in the fact that when you see someone and you see them rolling, a lot of people, don't take everything on board or don't take barely anything on board. It's like I'll do say a show of guillotine, do like 3 or 4 weeks of guillotines and guillotine setup. You look around and not one person's attempting them. And it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we showing this? But then when you see someone who nails it perfectly, or you see like a white belt who just nails it perfectly, it's cheesy, but it's really rewarding when you see it. Even more so in a comp.
Yeah. And I know probably, well, speaking for John, but the amount of studying you did do when you was a blue belt to kind of help yourself understand positions more, that kind of really set the foundation for when you did get your purple belt, because you could sprout off all sorts of things. Using an encyclopedia of knowledge, you could You could refer to a Gordon Ryan DVD and know it minute by minute.
Oh yeah. There's this past 29 minutes 36 seconds. No, I'm joking. But yeah. I mean, some other people's laptops are filled with porn. Mine's just full of gay videos. Just BJJ fanatics. It's just full of it.
Cool. So I think the reason we've got you here today, and the reason we really wanted to get you on, was to talk about the most annoying thing in the world for most people, and the world starting to reopen on the back of it, is COVID, and how you guys at the gym are starting to kind of plan to reopen, kind of what measures you're looking at putting in place, how you're going to safely open training. And chatting to my mum, who lives where you are, it's kind of becoming a bit of a hotbed for COVID at the minute where you guys are as well. So kind of, I'd be keen to know kind of the discussions you was having in the background. First off, when do you plan on opening again? And kind of what the steps are you've taken?
So we were, so when the government announced it, we were supposed to be reopening on the 3rd. We were going to reopen on the 3rd of August.
Okay.
But then since I think we made an announcement probably only a couple of weeks ago, maybe. I think it might have been like the day after the government announced that gyms were going to be able to reopen. So we announced that we were going to reopen on the 3rd. Within that time, Rochdale, just around the corner from us, they almost went into lockdown. Oldham is supposed to be going into lockdown. Middleton now has a testing centre. So everywhere around us is currently, it is a hotbed for it. But so obviously with us being linked to Predators in Manchester, John was speaking to the head coach there, Gav Boardman, and seeing what they put in place, just to make sure that we're doing everything by the book. And Gav had sent him this risk assessment that they'd done, and they'd literally covered every possible angle that you could think of. And suffice to say, we hadn't. So from that, they decided to put it back. I think we're now looking to reopen at the start of September. Like I said, just because.
Okay.
Just because the amount of things that they put in place, it was just, there was a lot of, I think, when did we announce it? I think we had about 3 weeks to get all this stuff done. If we were to reopen on the 3rd, I just don't think it was possible. So we had a risk assessment done on Monday, and I've had a read through that, and there's like 20 to 25 points in that of things that need to be done just to be able to make it acceptable, for us to reopen. But yeah, there's still quite a bit of work to be done, but.
And is it gonna look like a normal jiu-jitsu class, or is it going to be serious? Because I've seen some people opening up with just grappling dummies, for example.
Yeah, I think Lee mentioned that as well. So at the moment, because I've been keeping an eye on a number of gyms that are local that have opened, jiu-jitsu gyms, MMA gyms, and seeing what they're doing. There's been a number that have opened and done like Thai classes, just because there's more distance than there would be in a jiu-jitsu class if you're doing a Thai class. A lot of them are just doing strength and conditioning for grappling. And yoga for grappling as well. I think that's one thing that we're potentially looking at, maybe starting doing for the first couple of weeks that we reopen. But there's a lot of stuff in the gym that needs to be changed. Like we've got areas for like the kids' classes and stuff like that where the parents can come, view, sit, watch the kids train and stuff. That's all gone. There's a lot of stuff that needs to take place and needs to change in order for it to actually work. Like the classes are going to have to be shortened because the whole place needs to be cleaned before you can have another class come in. So all the classes, an hour class is now going to be a 45-minute class. You need I think one thing that we have been looking at doing is, I think a lot of gyms are doing as well, is booking. You need to book in the class. You can't just turn up anymore.
Yep.
I think that's for the track and trace as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, of course.
I think what we're not going to go down the grappling dummy route. I think it's either going to be that we the strength and conditioning and yoga for the time, for when we first open and see how that gets on. Or there's the potential for just one-on-one. So once you've got one partner, so like you create your own sort of like bubble. So if me and Lee were training partners, Lee would be the only person that I train with in the class. Is the only person that I drill with. Is the only person that I roll with. If Lee doesn't turn up to Thursday's class, I don't train. I think it's probably the safest way if you go into roll.
Yeah, we were thinking something along the same lines. I mean, I don't know what our gym is doing, but I always thought if you had a group of 5 people or so, and keep it to those little bubbles, but then you're completely beholden on other people to turn up.
Well, exactly. I mean, because with the classes we have, we did keep an attendance register. So the idea was based on your attendance, your grade. We should be able to match most people. I mean, we only have 3 grappling classes a week at the gym, and I can guarantee who's going to be there Tuesday, who's going to be there Thursday, and who will definitely be there Sunday. So we should be able to match them quite well. But everybody's, because nobody's trained for 3, 4, 5 months. Everybody's I'll be there every week. I'll be there every day. And you just know after a week it's not going to happen.
You start to see the old people come out of the woodwork for 2 weeks, and then that's it.
There'll be 30 on the mats for the first class. There'll be 20 on the mats for the second, and then on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock there'll be 5. So, yeah, I think the bubble thing probably is the best way to go if if people are willing and people want, they don't want to do the strength and conditioning, don't want to do the yoga, and they just want to get into techniques and rolling. But I think it depends on how many people you put in that bubble, like you say.
I think part of the trouble is, I mean, me personally, I haven't obviously I've missed it, but I've not minded not training over the past few months. A colossal amount, because I'm always like, well, at some point I'll get back. I think part of the trouble now is that everyone's going back. Everyone's not sure about it, but I don't want to be the only one being left behind.
Yeah.
Do you think it's better I wonder if it'd be better if no one opened up? But then obviously that's problems for the gyms, that's problems for, the sport in general, until it sort of improves, and it's hard to do.
I think, there's a gym which will be left unnamed, not too far from myself, which has just continued to train, has just continued to open, has hosted open mats. And I know people from our gym that have gone, even though we've been told that we're not supposed to. And it's infuriating, isn't it? It's like, it annoys me because, like yourself, like me, so many people that are following the guidelines, whether they're right, whether they're wrong, it doesn't matter. I'm following the guidelines because that's what they're telling us to do. But then when you look at such a body down the road who's training non-stop because he believes COVID's, some made up infection.
I know a few.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with a few of those people as well.
It's annoying, like you say. You know that you're going to get back to it, but then you look on Instagram, Facebook, or wherever, and you see all these people that are training, and like I said, we've got people from our gym going to these gyms as well, and that then causes an issue with that whole sort of bubble scenario.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be training with 2 or 3 people, but then you've got such a body who's going to an open mat at a different gym.
I think that's one of the big things in Jiu-Jitsu culture. I know when I was training back home, I didn't just train at Middleton. I went down to Predators. I went to some of the other gyms in the area. It is that kind of, I've always been a bit of a gym nomad and kind of floated around. I think that's going to be one of the hardest things to stop, and for some people they're going to have to settle on one gym and, like you said, find a bubble to people to train with, and it's not a case of float around, do a different class each night of the week anymore.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, that's the problem because like if you, especially with certain gyms, there might be our gym as well. It might be a bit small, so it doesn't have as many classes. So you got 3 classes on a week. One of them might not work with someone. It might not fit their schedule, but then
You've got to pre-book it, and
yeah, but then someone else's gym, it might have a class when they are free. Oh, I'll just go by there instead. And then you've also got to rely on people to be honest, which I imagine is also going to cause problems because as soon as we've put posts up saying if you're going to come back to our gym and train, you can't be training anywhere else. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. But then they're not going to own up to training elsewhere.
Yeah. And then you've got the other side of it as well of people starting to show symptoms. I mean, over the years, gyms I've trained, it's hard enough to get people to admit when they've got ringworm and stop training. So some people are going to struggle with like slight symptoms and still carry on training, which is disastrous for everybody.
And they're just coming. Oh, I've just got the flu. It's all right.
Yeah. I mean, all three of us have seen it. People with ringworm who just cover it up and go, "Oh no, it's not ringworm. It's fine. I just want to carry on training." Or it's not staph. No, it's fine.
Take off their rash guard to get into the showers. There's a huge boil or something on their back, and you look at it and you go, "I rolled that guy."
You're not going to get people being honest, are you? I mean, I've like I said, I've already experienced it. We're not supposed to be training elsewhere, and I already know a number of people from our gym that have gone to a local gym to train, and they're not owning up to it.
Yeah.
Because you know that do. All right, well, you're not coming back to ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't be the guy who snitches on all the others, or maybe I don't know. Like, I think it would be. It depends. It depends how you look at it. I mean, you don't. I wouldn't want to be the guy, but also to keep people safe, maybe I would. I'm not really sure if I knew if a lot of people were going to other gyms, if I'd say something or not.
I just know who I'm not going to get put in a bubble with.
Yep.
They won't be in my bubble.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tricky one, and it's very much that kind of self-centered kind of short-term gains for somebody else. And I think the whole lockdown thing, your opinions on it may differ or whatever, but actually it's there to kind of stop some sort of spread. And I think with you being in the middle of it the numbers getting quite high again, you guys are going to have to be careful, or you're going to go back into a kind of full lockdown state, and all gyms are going to have to close again anyway.
Well, when we decided that we were going to put back the reopening, John and Greg, the gym owners, they have been in touch with the Rochdale Council and spoke to them, and they said, wise decision to, postpone the opening because it's looking more and more likely that Middleton's going to go into lockdown. So, and if third, and then, you've got all these classes booked and you've done all this work, and then Middleton goes into lockdown, then the first thing that's going to close again is the gym.
Yeah.
I think that's the most likely thing we're going to see moving forwards, though. If it really does drag on for months and months, it's most likely to be little local lockdowns just here and there, isn't it? Which I think is going to be interesting to see how it affects certain gyms, especially if you've got people who are competing at a higher level.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a number that have achieved elite level status. They're elite gyms. I think on your UK BJJ, the association, I've seen a number of gyms of I think ASW is the closest one to us. They've just achieved elite level status, which allows them to reopen, train normally. And
it's just that they have the right structures in place to.
I don't think it. I don't think it's the structures. I think it depends. I think it's. I mean, don't quote me, but I think it's due to the people that are actually training there, and whether it's part of your livelihood, and whether it is
right, yeah,
whether it is just your sort of friendly local gym, which is just for hobbyists, or whether it's you've got people that are training there and it's their livelihood. I
suppose if you look at like Cowbon were on UFC this weekend. They had kind of 4 guys from Cowbon on the UFC card this weekend. It's a big part of their lives and the way they make money.
Yeah. I think 10th Planet in London. I think they were one of the first in the UK to.
Oh, really?
I think they were one of the first to get granted with this elite status. So it just didn't mean they could open and start training again.
It's interesting though, because the thing is, the more open those guys are about training elsewhere, the more likely it is that the whole gym's going to get suddenly taken out. You know, you get one guy infected who comes in and trains, doesn't show symptoms. Suddenly, that's a lot of people who are going to start getting coughs.
Yeah, 100%. I think
you can see in pubs, can't you? You can see how many pubs are kind of now starting to shut down because they've had one person come in through a weekend, and that's it. Then it's kind of job done. You've got to close for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the bubble is the best way to go about it. Like I say, if you get an open mat and one person has it but isn't showing symptoms, rolls with 10 different people in an open mat.
You know, that's quite interesting. So, hypothetically, if this drags on for a long time, because I've seen some people saying this might go on for, you know, all of next year, like we might have to learn how to live with coronavirus, as they put it. It's weird then that if people do start using the bubbles and start not training outside of their gym circle, you're going to, because there's been a big shift to sort of going towards sort of open training and everyone shares techniques and thoughts on it. Suddenly everyone's going to become really closed off and sort of hoard their own special techniques and training methods and things like that.
Yeah.
Don't let any outsiders in.
So someone you've not trained with for about a year is suddenly going to be like a heel hook specialist.
Right. So all the DVDs you've been swatting up on, you're only going to share that with a select few now.
Just one person.
Yeah.
It's just the one person in my bubble.
You and Vil.
I don't want Vil as my partner. Jesus Christ, I'd be dead after one roll.
So I'm interested to know more about this risk assessment. So, like, me and Robbie have been back into the gym this week, and it's kind of one entry point, one exit point, sanitize as you go in, kind of the common sense things everybody thinks of. What will some of the kind of weird and wonderful things coming out of that risk assessment?
I wouldn't say any was. It is just. I wouldn't say anything was weird or wonderful. It's just most of it is like you say. It's what everybody's doing. It's common sense. I mean, the gym's undergoing quite a lot of refurb works over lockdown because the gym's on a second floor, but they've took on the first floor as well. So they've been sort of kitting out the first floor. But yeah, a lot of it is just sort of common sense of, you know, like you said, going in, you know, making sure you're keeping your distance, sanitizing. I think, like I said, the things that they've had to do within the gym is take out the seating area for you know, like family members and stuff to be able to watch people train. The booking online, like I said, shortening of the classes. I mean, because when the class is, you know, I mean, our timetable, we've got a kids class, and then immediately there's an adults class. So like I said, so they've had to. I think they've cut the kids classes for now. You know, I mean, how do you put kids in a bubble or stop kids from running around? But
yeah,
they've had to stop some of the classes and then swap some of them over. So like I said, there's a 15-minute. The classes have shortened by 15 minutes, so that there's a window to be able to clean everything. Another thing is the changing rooms. So, you know, if you've got everybody turning up for class at the same time, everybody's in a small changing room, it won't make any sense to have the bubble or do any sort of distancing. So you're having to ask people to turn up to class ready. So, you know, you're going to be sat out in a car park, either in your little spats, or you're going to be in your full gi in the car park waiting to go and train. Yeah,
it's going to make some interesting people getting pulled over by the police.
Oh no! I mean, you've seen some of the grappling shorts I wear. Jesus Christ, it's like a pair of briefs. But yeah, it's that. It's markings on the matting, you know, so that everybody sticks to the distance. Yeah, actually, I've got the risk. Like I said, there's nothing crazy about it. A lot of it is just common sense that certain people just don't think about.
Yeah,
I don't mean like the gym owners haven't thought about it. I just mean that stuff that you have to remind people constantly of what to do and what not to do. Stuff like don't walk onto the mats wearing shoes.
yeah.
Like
It's amazing how many times people have to get reminded about that.
It is a personal bugbear of mine. I scream at people in our gym, and I'm stood. People think I'm a dick because I'm literally shouting at people, being like, "Get your fucking shoes on when you're off the mats!" Like,
That's not why they think you're a dick.
well, yeah. He took
Send it
his
there. I
opportunity.
send it there. I've enjoyed that.
I saw it.
No, honestly, because it's like because the Thai guys at the gym, the guys that do the Thai boxing, because the faces are never getting shoved into the mat, so they'll happily walk around from the carpet onto the mat, grab some mitts, whatever, and then walk off. The new guys, who start taking a jiu-jitsu class, they have no idea. So as soon as they do it, well, straight away, if it's the class I'm teaching, just to let wear shoes or wear flip flops, wear whatever on the mats and well off the mats, and then when you come onto the mats barefoot. But the amount of people that you have a go at, and they just yeah laugh it like you joke. It's like I'm not joking. Someone's face is going to get rubbed in that.
Yeah,
It's infuriating, but it's little things like that having to put like signs up just so that you've covered yourself. You shouldn't have to
yeah.
because
I mean,
anybody.
hopefully, if there's one good thing to come out the back of this, and like having to do the risk assessment and having to pay attention to kind of be a lot more conscious of all these cleaning stuff, is hopefully our gyms become really hyper aware of cleanliness and cleaning the mats to the nth degree, and really calling people out who have got shoes on, not got shoes on, and so on. And we actually get a lot safer environments training by cleaning the mats after every class and things like that. I know not all gyms do that.
Yeah, that's true. I was just going through that. I was just having a little read of the risk assessment there, as well, and it is just simple stuff. One thing they're not allowed to do, that they've put is not allowed to sell like drinks and stuff.
Yep.
Not allowed to sell drinks. Keeping the windows open throughout the classes as well to get the airflow going and circulate the airflow while they're training as well. But yeah, it is. I think most of it is just sort of common sense and good good hygiene. Like you said, if anything comes of it, you know, all gym owners will be on it where they right, okay, the mats are cleaned after every class rather than every other day. I was just going to say as well. Speaking of the feet, I remember walking onto the mats wearing shoes. I remember we went to Mill Hill. We went to Mill Hill a
Oh, yeah?
couple of years ago. We went for a class there, and one of my mates he stepped onto the mat. It's kind of like a weird setup the way you're walking
Yeah,
around.
it's really easy to accidentally step on, isn't it? It's like a tiny little bit where you have to get your shoes off.
Yes, and he walks round, and as he's walked around, he's gone through this sort of like this pathway, this corridor, and then there's like there must have been about 30 odd pairs of shoes there, and he might have like stepped over them, and he's literally put a foot on the mat, and a purple belt has just got up from his roll and just ran over. So, mate, don't put your shoes on the mat. Don't put your shoes on the mat. He's like, and he's only like an 18-year-old lad, as nice as anything. Oh, sorry, very sorry. Sign within the in-betweeners or something. But he was on it straight away.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
No,
No,
it's good.
it's good. And you think culturally, I think a lot more gyms are going to move to that kind of way now, especially on the back of this. You've got the opportunity to train and reopen and do it safely, and you can actually really get the kind of shouting at people to do the right thing.
The thing is, I find it odd that the thing of the shoes on the mat, everyone knows it's a huge faux pas. No one will do it. But when it comes to the hygiene aspect of only training with a bubble and not training at random other gyms, we know a lot of people who are just going to completely fuck with that idea.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice if we can get the attitude for one aspect
across everything.
across the others. Like, what is that hard? But some people are just like, fuck it. If no one knows, no one knows.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's people's views on COVID in comparison to just normal sort of hygiene on the mats. So, it's like you'll probably have someone who'll completely 100% believe in staff. Staff ringworm, it's the worst thing in the world. But then again, there'll also be a conspiracy theorist that COVID is real, so they should be able to train elsewhere.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, please consider subscribing to the podcast and checking us out on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram under the name Combat Thoughts. We'll see you next time.